Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Lindsay Unfiltered. And today we will be diving into the P. Diddy and Jay-Z lawsuit allegations. Now, as you guys may or may not know, P. Diddy was accused of essaying a 13-year-old girl at a VMA after party. Now, when the lawsuit came out, there was an unnamed male and female that were with P. Diddy at the time of the assault. Now, yesterday we find out that that unnamed male was Jay-Z allegedly. Okay, these are all allegations. We don't know anything to be true until proven to be true, right? And I found the lawsuit. I decided that I'm going to read it because I need to see this for myself. So if you guys want to listen along while I read, I'll step back and analyze and we can look at this together. Now, this document is 21 pages long. We are at 1,963 followers. Thank you guys so very much. I started this journey about 221 days ago. So it's really great to see how far we come. And I also do shorts, so those get some attention as well. I really appreciate any way you support the channel. It is greatly appreciated. Thank you guys so much. But without further ado, let's get into this lawsuit. All right, guys, here we are with the Diddy lawsuit naming Jay-Z. I will include the link in the comment. Some creators don't include the lawsuits in the links. Sometimes I forget to include the links, but it's really helpful when people can look through things for themselves. So I'll include that at the bottom for you guys if you guys want to dig. Okay, so here we have in the United States District Court of New York, the Southern District Court of New York, Jane Doe is the plaintiff versus Sean Combs, Daddy's House Recordings, Inc., CEOPCO, LLC, doing business as Combs Global, Combs Enterprises, Bad Boy Entertainment, Bad Boy Productions, Bad Boy Books. Again, when did Diddy let a book out? I think he had one book that he wrote, okay? Anyway, Bad Boy Records, Bad Boy Entertainment, Bad Boy Productions, Organizational Does 1 through 10, Individual Does 1 through 10, and Sean Carter. So the whole kit and caboodle here. Everything associated with Diddy and Sean Carter. Everything associated with Diddy and Jay-Z. Okay? Not everything associated with Jay-Z, just Jay-Z. And everything associated with Sean Combs, as we know as P. Diddy. They are the defendants. Okay? Plaintiff Jane Doe, plaintiff by and through her attorneys, the Busby Law Firm, for her complaint alleges as follows. Introduction. Okay. Defendant Sean Combs, as known as P. Diddy, as known as Puff Daddy, as known as Diddy, as known as PD, as known as Love. Never heard anybody call him PD, but go off. I'm going to call him P. Diddy because that was my era. Okay. Along with his longtime friend and collaborator, Sean Carter, aka Jay-Z, drugged and essayed a 13-year-old girl at an after party following the 2000 Video Music Awards, 24 years ago. Another celebrity stood by and watched as Combs and Carter took turns assaulting the minor. Many others were present at the after party but did nothing to stop the assault. So if one celebrity stood by and watched, how can you then say many others were present but did nothing to stop? How many were present? Combs has been allowed for years to conduct himself in this manner without any consequences. He believes he is above the law. He is not. His close friend Sean Carter has been with Combs during many such instances described herein. Both perpetrators must face justice. That is a big allegation, okay? His close friend Sean Carter, it says here, has been with Combs during many such instances described herein. So they're saying this is not all we know about, right? This is just one of many. Wow. Okay. For decades, defendant Combs abused, essayed, threatened, and coerced women, minors, and others for SA gratification, to assert dominance, and to conceal his abhorrent conduct. He accomplished these acts by and through a criminal enterprise built on his success as a rapper, record producer, and record executive. Combs is one of the wealthiest musical artists in the world. Behind the facade of being a 3-time Grammy Award winner, discovering and developing multiple famous musical artists, and ranking on Forbes' list of the highest paid entertainers in the world, there existed something sinister. A dark underbelly of crime, SA, forced labor, kidnapping, bribery, and gigolo stuff. Combs is a menace to society, women, and children. While his wealth has kept him above consequence for years, Combs now faces the awesome power of the American judicial system and ultimately a jury of his peers who will be asked to punish him for his deplorable conduct described herein. Awesome power. I mean, I digress. I wouldn't call it the power of the American judicial system awesome if it took them this long to catch on to something like that. You allege here that this menace to society was running a fucking muck for 20 some odd years, 30 some odd years, and now the awesome justice system swoops in and figures things out. I don't think that's how it works, right? But this introduction is really well written, okay? I feel like coming from a bystander citizen's point of view, me reading this, it's like, okay, yeah, this is really good. Some of the other introductions were very bland, very repeated from other lawsuits, but this one, it kind of really hits, okay? So Combs business enterprise is central to the pervasive act of SA and abuse committed by him during the last decades. Combs operated his business headquartered at various times in Manhattan and Los Angeles under a variety of United States-based corporate entities, including Bad Boy Entertainment, Bad Boy Books, again, who released the book under that? Bad Boy Records, Bad Boy Entertainment, Bad Boy Productions, Daddy's House Recording Studio, Sketchy, and CEOPCO, doing business as Combs Global, Combs Enterprise, Combs Enterprises, and Combs Global, collectively the Combs business, okay? Corporate entities in the Combs business portfolio included record labels, a recording studio, an apparel line, an alcoholic spirits promoting business, a marketing agency, a talent discovery, a television network, and media company. What television network did Diddy own? I don't know about that. I knew about Revolt, the media company. I know about the alcoholic spirits, right? The apparel, the recording studio. I don't know about those books and that TV network. If you know about that, fill me in. On the surface, each of these businesses served a legitimate purpose related to entertainment, music, and other subjects. But in reality, Combs, by and through himself and his agents, employees, and contractors, talk to me here, use these businesses to abuse, threaten, and coerce hundreds of individuals through quid pro quo schemes, as well as to take advantage of individuals with impunity, thinking the victims would never have any recourse. Combs and his agents, employees, and contractors through these Combs business would tell victims, this is what it takes to be famous. What are you willing to do to become a star? And perform this or else. In exchange for the victim performing a non-consensual act for the gratification of Combs and his cohort. Members and associates of the Combs business engaged in and or attempted to engage in, among other activities, trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for the purposes of gigolo stuff, coercion and enticement to engage in gigolo stuff, narcotics offenses, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. The Combs business constituted an ongoing organization whose members function as a continuing unit for a common purpose of achieving the objectives of Combs. Combs' pervasive history of SA and violence. For years, Combs and his businesses engaged in a persistent and pervasive pattern of abuse towards women, men, and minors. This abuse was at times verbal, emotional, physical, and SA. As a part of his pattern of abuse, Combs manipulated both men and women to participate in highly orchestrated performances of SA with both commercial gigolos and unsuspecting partygoers. Combs ensured participation from these individuals by, among other things, obtaining and distributing narcotics to them with or without their knowledge, controlling their careers, leveraging his financial support, and threatening to cut off the same, and using intimidation, violence, and illicit you-know-whats. Combs particularly fancied the use of the popular date SA drug GHB to commit heinous, non-consensual acts of violence and SA onto countless victims. Combs often would secretly use the drug in an alcoholic beverage served at his parties. Partygoers were forced to consume it containing GHB, either prior to entering or while at Combs' parties. There are also allegations of Combs dousing victims in lotions or similar body oils also laced with GHB so that the GHB would be absorbed through the victim's skin and make it easier to assault him/her. Further, it is known that Combs had a practice of lacing water bottles with other substances such as Xanax and distributing them at his parties. We kind of get a Bill Cosby tip from P. Diddy. Not only is he a guy that likes to party, he's a guy that likes to slip things in people's drinks, allegedly, okay? So if you go to his house and he's giving you a drink, you can't be too sure that it hasn't been tampered with, right? He might even tell you, hey, I put a little something extra in it for you, whatever. But the point that the lawyer's trying to make here is that these drinks that these people are getting at these parties, these lotions, these creams, this expensive liqueur, this Deleon, this Ciroc was not purely spirit. It was mixed with something, allegedly, sometimes, right? To make the person, the victim, a little bit more easygoing to take advantage of, right? Combs' recurrent and pervasive physical abuse took place for multiple decades. His tendencies of violence and SA were well known amongst his colleagues, employees, agents, and businesses. On numerous occasions, from at least in or about 1996, and continuing for years, Combs assaulted women and men by striking, punching, dragging, throwing objects at, and kicking them. Combs also assaulted children, both physically and SA. That is a huge claim, another huge claim here. They're saying, we know he did this to children as well. Okay, allegedly, right? In 1996, Combs was found guilty of criminal mischief for threatening a photographer from the New York Post with a gun. In 1999, he was arrested and charged with second-degree assault and criminal mischief in connection with assaulting a record executive. Combs was arrested again the same year for his involvement in a shooting at a club in New York. Now, that woman, one of the victims who actually got shot in her face, says that she saw P. Diddy do it to her. And I don't feel like that woman would need to lie about something as traumatizing as that, right? She saw him do it. Whether or not it was meant for her, whether or not it was meant for her is lanyard. She was still injured and almost lost her life, right? Another instance of violence occurred at a Los Angeles hotel on or about March 2016, which was captured on video and later publicly reported, where Combs kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a woman as she was attempting to leave his hotel room. When hotel staff intervened, Combs attempted to bribe the staff member to ensure silence. Now, let me put this on your brain. When you see that video, do you think that is Diddy's first time hitting Cassie? Do you think it's his second time? Do you think it's his third? Do you think it's his 10th? Do you think it's his 50th? How many times had that happened to her at that point? It wasn't the first time. So you just got a glimpse, sweetheart. You got a glimpse. So for anybody to say, he shouldn't go to jail for that, that was just a glimpse, right? Continue. In the past year, numerous civil complaints have been filed by plaintiffs who allege that they have been essayed by Combs between 1991 and 2009. In November 2023, 3 lawsuits were filed against Combs under the New York Adult Survivors Act. Cassie Ventura, an artist signed to Bad Boy, sued Combs in New York for abuse and SA. She alleged Combs facilitated these acts by and through supplying her with copious amounts of stuff and urging her to take them beginning in 2006. Joy Dickerson Neal also sued Combs in New York, alleging Combs essayed her, gave her stuff, and secretly recorded the assault in 1991. Liza Gardner, who Combs met in an event hosted by a record label affiliated with Bad Boy, sued him for essaying her and a friend in 1990 or 1991 when she was only 16. I wasn't even born. Okay? He was doing this shit for decades. In December 2023, an anonymous plaintiff sued Combs in New York for drugging and gang essaying her in 2003 when she was only 17 years old. The victim alleged that employees and business associates of Combs, through their affiliation with Bad Boy Enterprise, lured her to Combs' home, where Combs then assaulted her. In February 2024, Rodney Lil Rod Jones, one of Combs' former producers, sued Combs for forcing him to engage with unwanted SA and trafficking, among other allegations. Mr. Jones alleged that Mr. Combs regularly put others under the influence by giving them MDMA and other stuff. Mr. Jones alleged that Combs, in fact, did it to him as well in order to commit acts of SA. In May 2024, former model Crystal McKinney and April Lampos sued Combs. Miss McKinney alleged that Combs drugged and SA'd her at his recording studio in 2003, mimicking what has now become a known pattern. Combs promised Miss McKinney to help her with her modeling career and engaging in conduct with him. Miss Lampros, an intern, Arista Records, which was an owner of Bad Boy, also sued Combs in May 2024 in New York County Supreme Court for essaying her on multiple occasions, secretly filming these acts and showing the recordings to multiple people. Ms. Lampros also alleges that Combs ordered her to take stuff on one occasion before he essayed her. In July 2024, former adult film star Audrey English, who was employed by Combs as an entertainer at his infamous white parties that brought together the biggest names in the music and entertainment industries, sued Combs in the Southern District of New York for trafficking, alleging that he required her to consume drinks laced with stuff and secretly recorded the acts. In September 2024, singer and songwriter Dawn Angelique Richard also sued Combs. Richard was employed by Combs as part of the girl group Danity Kane, formed by Combs, and later a key member of Combs' band Diddy Dirty Money. She sued Combs in New York for SA, false imprisonment, and subjecting her to hostile working conditions due to her gender, including degrading comments and threats. Ms. Richard has alleged that Combs regularly supplied others, including minors, with copious amounts of alcohol and other stuff, and subjected them to SA while they were sedated and or unconscious due to the drugs, due to the alcohol and other stuff. Now, if you guys don't sense a pattern here, I don't know what's going on. I sense a pattern. Put something in their drink, loosen them up, SA, and film. I sense a pattern. There's a definite pattern, different people, different places, different times, but the pattern stays the same, which has to have me believe that these claims could very well be legitimate, right? Look at all of this. In September 2024, a federal grand jury in Manhattan indicted Combs and charged him with trafficking, racketeering, and the creation of a criminal enterprise in which he abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. See United States of America versus Sean Combs. The indictment explains that Combs' abuse of women and minors was enabled and conspired with by the employees, the resources, and influence of the multifaceted business empire that he led and controlled, creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other crimes, trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. Combs' long history of violence against women unequivocally establishes that his actions are motivated by gender, both men and women. Combs has a profound contempt for women. He's a misogynist, right? And a desire to dominate both minors and other men. His conduct shows a long-standing practice of denigrating, defeating, and attempting to humiliate men, women, and children. His practices and desires are different for men, women, and children, but his actions are unequivocally motivated by the victim's particular gender and age. Plaintiff's allegations herein substantially mirror Combs's prior conduct as established through criminal indictments and other lawsuits. Through this case, plaintiff seeks a full measure of justice from a man who thought his power, money, and influence rendered him untouchable. Plaintiff joins many victims by filing this complaint and hope their common voice makes it impossible for Combs to assault another person ever again. Okay, now we get into Jay-Z. Let's see. Defendant Carter is, like Combs, a wildly successful rapper and businessman. Carter and Combs have a long history together. Carter met and began collaborating musically with Combs in the 1990s. Combs and Carter rose together to the very top of the hip-hop industry in terms of fame and influence by the end of that decade. Combs and Carter were not simply occasional collaborators in the music industry. The two men developed a close relationship that has been well documented from the late 1990s to the present. I can agree with that, sure. Together, they attended countless music industry events for each other's business ventures, parties, and after parties. Indeed, the two are apparently so close that Combs stated in 2023 that Carter is the only person other than Combs' mother who is allowed to call him by his legal first name of Sean. In 2000, near the height of their fame, power, and influence, Combs and Carter attended the 2000 Video Music Awards in New York City. Now, I'm going to see if I can pull up a picture of them on that night. Afterwards, Combs hosted an after party for many of the most famous celebrities in the music and entertainment industries, including Carter, which is where the events in this complaint occurred. Okay. All right. The introduction was good. The introduction was strong. And it really harped on a lot of Diddy's character. It harped on all of the things that Diddy has been accused of by others. It's painting Diddy in a really shitty light before we get into the facts, which is, I feel like, is a good thing if you're trying to give someone an impression of someone before you actually say what happens. They have this background knowledge. So they're like, yeah, I believe that. After reading all of the forward, yes, I believe that. It was long, though. It was extremely long, but I feel like it was strong, right? All right, let's see the parties. Parties. Plaintiff Jane Doe is a female who resides in Alabama. Defendant Sean Combs is a male who, upon information and belief, resides in New York City through incarceration in the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. On information and belief at all relevant times, Combs owned and or controlled Bad Boy Entertainment Holdings, Bad Boy Productions Holding, Bad Boy Books, Bad Boy Records, Bad Boy Entertainment, Bad Boy Production, Daddy's House, that CEOPCO, Combs Global, Combs Enterprises, all together, the Combs Corporations. The facts of Combs' ownership and titles at the Combs Corporations enabled and conspired with him to commit the unlawful SA violence against plaintiff described herein. Defendants Daddy's House Recordings, Inc. Daddy's House is a domestic business corporation that is incorporated in New York and on information and belief now has its principal place of business at here. Combs is listed as a CEO in public filings with the listed address of here. At the time of the events alleged herein, Daddy's House was a world-class recording studio owned by Combs, located here. On information and belief, at all relevant times, Bad Boy and Combs together owned and operated Daddy's House. On information and belief, the Bad Boy recording studio was located on the premises of Daddy's House. Combs used the Daddy's House brand, stature, and their ownership titles at Daddy's House to commit the violence against plaintiff. All right. Defendant CEOPCO, which is Combs Global, Combs Enterprises, is a limited liability company incorporated in Delaware. How did that happen? That has its principal place of business here. On information and belief, all members of Combs Global are citizens of Delaware, New York, and or California. On information and belief, Combs Global is an alter ego for Combs and or a successor in interest to Combs, other corporations, and or was established or used by Combs for the purpose of moving, disposing of, and or insulating his assets, including in connection with his criminal activities to avoid liability. Now, that's a huge claim there. You tried to throw that in, okay? So you're saying that this Combs Global LLC business was only established by P. Diddy to move his money around to not be liable for certain crimes. That's a big allegation, right? What proof do you have the formation of Combs Global was only for disposing of and moving and money transferring things? That's a big claim, okay? Combs Global currently owns, controls, and oversees Bad Boys and Combs' other business ventures in the music, fashion, fragrance, beverage, marketing, film, television, and media industries. As part of his Bad Boy record label and brand, Combs has established several corporate entities under the Bad Boy name over the past few decades, including but not limited to Bad Boy Entertainment Holdings, Bad Boy Productions Holdings, Bad Boy Books Holdings, Bad Boy Records, Bad Boy Entertainment, and Bad Boy Productions. Together, Bad Boy. On information and belief, Bad Boy corporate entities are alter egos for Combs, are controlled and or directed by Combs, and or were established and or used by Combs for the purpose of moving, disposing of, and or insulating his assets, including in connection with his criminal activities to avoid liability. On information and belief, all active Bad Boy entities are now owned and controlled by Combs and or Combs Global. Combs used the Bad Boy premises recording studio and their ownership and titles at Bad Boy to commit the unlawful SA against plaintiff described herein. Defendant Bad Boy Entertainment Holdings is a domestic business corporation incorporated in New York that on information and belief now has its principal place of business here, and it is part of the Bad Boy enterprise founded and owned by P. Diddy, and it is owned by Combs. Combs is listed as a CEO with a listed address here. Bad Boy Productions. It's a business corporation in New York and it has its principal place of business here. It's part of that Bad Boy enterprise and it is owned by Combs. He's listed as a CEO with an address here. Bad Boy Books, same thing. Domestic business corporation incorporated in New York that on information and belief has its principal place of business here. It's part of the Bad Boy enterprise that's owned by Combs. And the CEO listed on that filing is Eddie Norwood Jr. and his address is here. And that's the same address listed for Diddy public filings for Bad Boy Entertainment, Bad Boy Productions, and Daddy's House. Defendant Bad Boy Records LLC is a Delaware limited liability company that on information and belief is headquartered in New York and or California. All right. On information and belief, all members of Bad Boy Records are citizens of Delaware, New York, or California. On information and belief, Bad Boy Records is part of the Bad Boy Enterprise and or successor in interest to other Bad Boy defendants that comprise the Bad Boy Enterprise founded and owned by Combs. On information and belief, it's now owned by Combs. Okay. Bad Boy Entertainment is a New York LLC that is headquartered in New York or California. Okay. All members are citizens of New York or California, and it's owned by Combs. Okay. Or Combs Global. Goodness gracious, way to beat a dead horse with all of the Bad Boy holdings and all of the defendants, and a way to beat a dead horse with all the parties. Okay. I was skimming just a little bit because that is freaking ridiculous. Okay. We get it. Defendants' organizational does 1 through 10 are currently unknown entities who were owned and or employed defendant Combs and enabled and conspired with the commission of the conduct complained of herein. As the parties engage in discovery, plaintiff retains the right to amend the complaint to add these entities by name. Okay, so other companies that may be liable. Defendants, individual does 1 through 10 are currently unknown celebrities and or persons of interest who enabled and or conspired with the commission of the conduct complained of herein. As the parties engage in discovery, plaintiff retains the right to amend the complaint to add these individuals by name. Defendant Sean Carter is a male who, on information and belief, maintains residences in both New York and Los Angeles. Defendant Carter is more commonly known by his industry name of Jay-Z. Carter was identified in plaintiff's original complaint as Celebrity A. Prior to the filing of this amended complaint, Carter received a letter from plaintiff's counsel requesting a mediation to solve this matter. Upon present information and belief, Jay-Z responded to said letter by not only filing an utterly frivolous lawsuit, but also by orchestrating a conspiracy of harassment, bullying, and intimidation against the plaintiff's lawyers, their families, employees, and former associates in an attempt to silence plaintiff from naming Jay-Z herein. This effort was meant to scare plaintiff and to discredit her counsel. That effort failed. Indeed, plaintiff chose to file this amendment as a result of the egregious conduct perpetrated by Carter. Okay. Each of the Combs corporations aided and abetted Combs in committing the unlawful violence against plaintiff described herein. Are alter egos for Combs, completely dominated by him and used for his personal interests to engage in wrongdoing which harmed plaintiff and others, serve or have served as vehicles for Combs to move, dispose of, and or insulate his assets, including in connection with his criminal activities, and to avoid compensating the victim of his many crimes, including plaintiff. Now, 4C, that's a big one, okay? You are making a big allegation. You're saying that all these businesses that P. Diddy has, they were created out of the sole intent or used with the secondary intent of moving money from here to there so plaintiffs can't get their money if he's sued by them. So we're just going to sue them all because he's using them as vehicles to move his money around. I mean, it's a good theory, but you would have to prove that. You know, you would have to prove that in my eyes, right? So you suing them all for the sole purpose of, they didn't aid and abet Combs, right? They didn't necessarily aid and abet Combs in this particular instance. You're suing them because you're saying that they served or have served as vehicles for him to move his money around, right? That would be tough to prove, in my opinion, right? Jurisdiction and venue. This court has subject matter jurisdiction pursuant to 28 U.S.C. 1332 because this case is between citizens of different states and the amount in controversy exceeds $75,000. This court has specific personal jurisdiction over defendants because the acts giving rise to plaintiffs' claims took place in New York State, and because several of the defendants are domiciled in New York State and or regularly transact business in New York State. Venue is proper in this district pursuant to 28 U.S.C. 1391 because a substantial part of the events or omissions giving rise to the claims occurred in this district. Jury demand. Plaintiff hereby demands a trial by jury on her claims in this action. Factual allegations. Finally, we get here after 13 pages describing the parties, describing Diddy's background, describing the jurisdiction, describing what belongs to Diddy and how much of a monster he is. We get to the factual allegations in page 13, guys. I said I was going to do 10 pages. I thought we would be deep into the allegations by now, but I have to read at least a couple of pages of allegations, right? And I will do that. Okay, here we go. Factual allegations. On or around September 7th, 2000, plaintiff, then 13 years old, had a friend drive and drop her off near Radio City Music Hall in New York City so she could try and attend the Video Music Awards. Attending the Video Music Awards was on her bucket list, and she believed she could gain entry. Plaintiff arrived at the venue and saw large crowds gathering as artists and entertainers began arriving. Plaintiff was very excited. As the event began, much of the crowd moved inside, but plaintiff, without a ticket, remained outside with the others and watched the VMAs on a jumbotron. Determined to get into the VMAs or an after party, she approached several limousine drivers parked nearby and attempted to talk her way into either. One of the limousine drivers she spoke to claimed to work for defendant Combs. The driver told her that Combs liked younger girls and said she fit what Diddy was looking for. And while not allowing her into the awards, the driver invited her to an after party. The driver stated that he had to drive Combs and others to the after party first, but instructed plaintiff to return to his location after the event, and that he pick her up and take her to the after party. Now, here's my issue with this. If the limousine driver told you, Jane Doe, if the limousine driver told you that Diddy liked younger girls and you fit just what he's looking for, you thought it was a good idea to go still? Just asking, not victim blaming at all. Later that evening, plaintiff excitedly returned to the same location, would seem to her a long time. The driver eventually returned and drove her to what he described as the after party. After approximately 20 minutes, plaintiff arrived at what she believed to be a large white residence with a gate U-shaped driveway. Once inside, two men asked plaintiff to go sign a document, which plaintiff did not read, but now she believes it was a non-disclosure agreement. Why didn't she read it? She was told that she could not discuss what happened at the party. She gave the men her name and signed the form, but did not receive a copy. Inside the building, plaintiff recognized many celebrities as she entered what appeared to be a large living room or foyer containing a large crowd. Plaintiff attempted to mingle in the crowd and talk to several of the celebrities that she recognized and whom she had wanted to see at the VMAs. Okay, that's kind of believable, because if you're 13 years old, you want to see all your favorite celebrities. So that's kind of believable that a kid would want to be amongst their favorite singers, dancers, rappers. That's believable. But the unbelievable part is, why would you go alone, right? Wait staff circulated through the room carrying trays of drinks, and loud music played throughout the venue. Plaintiff observed widespread drug use, Mary Jane and cocaine. After attempting to talk to numerous celebrities, plaintiff accepted a drink from one of the waitresses circulating the crowd. The drink was a reddish yellow mixture that tasted like orange juice, cranberry juice, and something bitter. She accepted a drink, right? Again, I don't think she should have been there in the first place, but she accepted the drink. Okay. I'm not victim blaming. Okay. After drinking just a portion of that drink, plaintiff began to feel woozy and lightheaded, making her need to lie down. A photograph of an actual exemplary container used by Combs and or his agents' employees to insert GHB into alcoholic drinks is seen below. Bro, what? Okay. Looking for a place to rest, plaintiff walked down what appeared to be a hallway containing several rooms off it. She entered what appeared to be an empty bedroom so she could lie down for a moment. She did not lock the door. This room contained not only a large bed with no furniture of any other kind, television, or other furnishings. Soon after, Combs entered the room, along with defendant Carter and a female celebrity, Celebrity B. Plaintiff immediately recognized all three celebrities. Combs aggressively approached plaintiff with a crazed look in his eyes, grabbed her and said, "You are ready to party." Combs then threw plaintiff towards a wall, causing her to fall. Plaintiff got up and stumbled, at which point Combs grabbed her again and threw her on the bed. At that point, Carter began moving plaintiff's clothes as she grew more and more disoriented. Plaintiff was held down by Carter as he essayed her, and Combs, while Celebrity B watched. I have a really big issue with this saying Celebrity B, like a big one, okay? After Carter finished, he stepped back towards the wall. Combs then stepped forward and essayed plaintiff while Carter and Celebrity B watched. Combs then knocked plaintiff down and attempted to force plaintiff to perform that on him. She fought back, standing up quickly and punching out at the same time, hitting Combs in the neck. Taken aback, he stopped his attempt. When Combs backed away in surprise, Combs grabbed her shoes and clothes and ran out of the bedroom, holding her dress in front of her like a towel. She ran around the residence until she found the door and was able to leave the party. Although there were other guests still at the party, no one appeared to take notice of plaintiff's distress or attempted to help her. Once outside, plaintiff put her clothes back on and left the scene in the dark. Plaintiff attempted to retrace the route taken by the limo driver. She kept running until she reached a gas station she noticed on the way to the party. A female clerk noticed her distress and allowed her to use the phone. Plaintiff called her father, admitted she had lied about her whereabouts, and asked him to pick her up. Plaintiff's father arrived to pick her up shortly before dawn. After the assault, plaintiff fell into a deep depression, which continues to affect every facet of her life. Plaintiff suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder and a seizure disorder caused by stress and trauma. Plaintiff has had difficulty maintaining normal relationships and lives largely withdrawn from society. Those allegations are quite shocking. I really don't know what to say. From her point of view, she says, "I wanted to go to the VMAs. I was trying to get in, so I talked to the limousine driver. He said, Diddy likes girls like you, so he drove me there. And after a while, I took a drink. And I felt woozy, so I went in his bedroom, laid down, and then Diddy and Jay-Z came in and took turns on me while Celebrity B watched." Okay, that sounds so out of this world, right? That sounds so out of this world, right? But the thing about it is, you have to give victims validity until there's a reason to not give them validity, right? That's absolutely jaw-dropping. Let's put it like that. We're going to finish it, okay? The first cause of action is the violation of New York City Victims of Gender-Motivated Violence Protection Act. Plaintiff hereby incorporates each of the foregoing paragraphs as if fully set forth herein. By forcing contact onto plaintiff as a minor female, defendants Combs and Carter committed a crime of violence motivated by gender under the Victims of Gender-Motivated Protection Act, VGM-VPA, as defined in New York City Administrative Code 10-1103. The requirement that the crime of violence be committed because of gender, on or the basis of gender, and due, at least in part, to an animus based on the victim's gender is satisfied because defendants Combs and Carter forced minor plaintiff to engage in an interaction without consent. Jane Doe could not effectively consent because of her age. The non-consensual touching of a minor herein presented a serious risk of physical injury and in fact caused such injury. Gender animus inheres when consent is absent. Combs' long history of violence and abuse against women evinces a deep contempt and desire for domination over women. The Combs business enabled and conspired with Combs and Carter to commit the crime of violence motivated by gender because Combs and Carter SA'd plaintiff at a party related to or referencing Combs' business. On information and belief, Combs' businesses routinely committed SA and gender-motivated violence as detailed in other civil lawsuits to further the business purpose of Combs' enterprise. Given Combs' long-standing pattern and practice of committing SA against women, the Combs business had and or should have had knowledge of Combs using such parties and venues for this unlawful conduct and did nothing to stop it. Now, 65 seems a bit frivolous to me. This is kind of like a hypothetical situation. It's like, you know that Diddy is capable of doing certain things like this, Combs business. Every single time Diddy throws a party, you should be aware and you should have done things to stop these things from happening. So because you didn't, you're liable as well. That is a very, very frivolous and hypothetical claim, in my opinion. Okay, you can go after that if it can be proven, sure, but it's a bit of a stretch for me. Okay, the Combs business enabled and conspired with Combs to commit the crime of violence motivated by gender by failing to, among other things, protect plaintiff from a known danger and have sufficient policies and procedures in place to prevent SA and or train their employees on identifying and preventing SA, giving a long-standing pattern and practice of committing SA violence against women, including on premises owned and or operated by defendants. The Combs corporations had and or should have had knowledge that Combs was a danger to plaintiff and did nothing to stop him. The Combs business enabled and conspired with Combs to commit the crime of violence motivated by gender by failing to properly supervise. The Combs business had knowledge of, or should have had knowledge of, his widespread and well-known practice of committing SA and gender-motivated violence, including on premises owned and or operated by defendants, and did nothing to stop it. Now, let me follow that up by saying, who is the Combs business? Are you talking about a manager? Are you talking about an executive of one of the businesses he owns? Are you talking about an employee of one of the businesses he owns? I think you need to be a little bit more specific. When you want to sue the Combs business, you have to realize that P. Diddy is the CEO of the Combs business. So are you trying to say that other individuals' actions led to the Combs business getting sued, or was it P. Diddy's negligence to train his employees led to him getting sued? Okay. Combs corporations further enabled and conspired with Combs to commit the crime of violence motivated by gender by actively placing, maintaining, and or employing Combs in positions of power and authority, despite the fact that they knew and or should have known that Combs had a widespread and well-known practice of committing SA and gender-motivated violence, including on premises owned and or operated by defendants. Combs used his titles and authority confirmed by the Combs business, including as CEO, founder, and chairman, to facilitate and perpetrate the violent assault on plaintiff and to intimidate and force plaintiff to keep quiet in the subsequent years. On information and belief, plaintiff alleges that defendant organizational does 1 through 10 inclusive or other parties not yet identified who have enabled and conspired with Combs to commit the crime of violence motivated by gender in the ways articulated above and or other ways. As a result of defendant's actions, plaintiff suffered damages in amount to be determined at trial and pursuant to the fee-shifting provision of the statute. This legal action has been commenced within the statutory time frame provided by the 2-year look-back window for VGM VPA claims. See New York City Administrative Code 10/11/05. Wherefore plaintiff respectfully requests that judgment be entered against defendants as follows: awarding compensatory damages for all physical injuries, emotional distress, psychological harm, anxiety, humiliation, physical and emotional pain and suffering, family and social disruption and other harm in an amount to be determined at trial. Awarding punitive damages in an amount to be determined at trial. Awarding attorney's fees and costs pursuant to any applicable statute or law. Awarding pre- and post-judgment interest on all such damages, fees, and or costs, attaching any and all defendants' real property and other assets located in the state of New York pursuant to the Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 64, and awarding such other further relief as this court may deem just and proper. This was dated December 8th by Anthony Busby of the Texas Bar. Okay, and Ava Law Group, right? Here are my final words on this lawsuit. Jay-Z was mentioned maybe 4 times out of that long lawsuit. It was very long, very arduous. But again, it focused more on P. Diddy. We only hear of Jay-Z towards the end. And he's included as the person who committed the assault as well, allegedly. But as far as his character, his background, we get none of that on Jay-Z, but we get a lot of it on P. Diddy. I feel like there would have been a little bit more information about Jay-Z himself or some of the former allegations against Jay-Z. There's not a lot in there about Jay-Z that has me sitting here saying, oh my goodness, he did it. You know, there's not enough there for me. Okay, you always believe victims, but you have to read the facts. Okay, and the facts in this lawsuit showed me not a lot of discovery into the case when it comes to Jay-Z, the other woman, and the other organizational does and the other John and Jane does who were complicit to this crime. Okay, there was not a lot of discovery done, right? Not a lot of other people weren't named, so I can't really take a ton at face value right now. For this to be plastered all over the news the way it is, you would think there was more discovery done. And I'm just not satisfied with the discovery I'm seeing on Sean Combs. There's a ton of discovery on Sean Combs. There's a ton of factual evidence on Sean Combs. But Sean Carter, I just can't go there yet. I can't go there because everything I've seen has been from conspiracy theorists on TikTok, people talking about the elite and the Illuminati and things of that nature. So I just can't 100% say I'm on board with it. Okay. So I want to get you guys' opinions. You guys watch me read the entire thing. What do you guys think? Do you guys believe the validity of these claims? Let me know in the comments down below. Okay, guys, I had fun reading this for you guys. Another long video for you guys to enjoy. I will be back this week. I'm looking into true crime. I'm looking into the Scandal series. I hope you guys enjoyed this video though. This has been Lindsay Unfiltered. Bye now.